to get into
the Great Pumpkin Run at Saint Gregory's School down at Zelienople. There's a 5K and a 1 mile race. I did both. The 1 mile starts at 3 p.m. The 5K starts at around 3:20 when everybody's finished with the 1 mile. Did this race a couple years ago. Been wanting to go back. I didn't get to go last year. I forget the reason why. Maybe the Steelers were on, or I just had another race or something. Who knows? But I got to go back this year. I'll start off with the 1 mile because that was the first race. Well, I felt pretty good going in this morning. A little tired though. Like, wasn't sure if I was actually going to come to the races today. I was tired from last night doing my race, and then yesterday morning I didn't get much sleep. Well, recovery type sleep. So I did a coin flip. It actually came up not to go, but I decided to come anyhow. So I rushed around the last couple minutes to get down here in time. Made it in plenty of time though. Came through Pittsburgh on the way, so it saved me like 15 minutes going through like Butler, Cantanning, or New Kenway. Anyway, the 1 mile, it's a quick little out and back type course. It goes through some sportsman's club as a turnaround. Nothing really hard. Again, it's only a mile. Still got 30-ish feet of gain. It's not a straight shot. There is a couple of turns, so there is that. In the sportsman's, it's gravel. And there's a bridge that you go into, well, over when you hit the sportsman's, going into the sportsman. It's a little rough, so you have to watch for the potholes, but nothing major. The weather was good. I'd say like 55 degrees when I got there for both races. But for the mile race, I didn't really get ready till about 5 till. And when we lined up, there was a buttload of children. And they were in like the front line. There was even a couple kids, you know, pushing their way up in front of a couple of us adults. And we just like sort of looked at each other like, oh God, we knew what was going to happen. Like trip hazards everywhere. Because there was probably like 30, 40 kids in the start of the race. So I was kind of worried about getting slowed down or tripping over a kid just from them doing their like sprinting out and just randomly stopping or doing their little zigzag pattern, which they tend to do. So I was worried because it allows somebody else, if they get like a clear lane, to be able to go faster and get a little bit of a lead. But thankfully I took first. So as we started, a couple of the older kids, we'll say like 12-year-olds, there's like 2 that took off. I did have to weave around about 15 people before I was able to catch up with the 2 12-year-olds that took off right away. And then it was just a battle from there for that first half mile. I passed one maybe 3/10, and then the other one was probably right about a half mile. That's when I passed him. I did redline pretty quickly during the mile, so I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to hold him off, or I wasn't sure how long they were going to be able to maintain a mile pace. That's why I wanted to stick with them and just not let things play out. Because, you know what I mean, you let them run comfortable and get a big lead, then you have to try to catch back up. So I didn't want to do that. But by the time we hit the sportsman's, I took the lead. I didn't have to watch myself a little bit going over that bridge. So that was the first time going over it. You know, I didn't realize there was all those potholes. Luckily I didn't trip, because there is some leaf cover over the bridge and the potholes, so you have to be careful. Had only maybe like 2 seconds or whatever as we turned around this cone in the Sportsman's, and for some reason I took that like it was a slow turn. I just couldn't turn my body like quickly, I guess. I probably wasted like 2 seconds just trying to like get a nice turn going. I didn't loop out around. I just couldn't even do like a sharp turn. I don't know what was going on. So anyway, I took back off. I was like, all right, we got like a half mile to go. See what you can do. See what you can do to push them and burn the kids out. So I tried to lay the hammer down in the little flat section through the Sportsman's Club before we popped out of it. And as we were crossing the bridge on the way back, I did feel bad because there was this little girl. She completely biffed it. She went down to all fours and probably scraped her knee up on the bridge. She looked like she was in pain as I looked back. But I couldn't stop because I had to keep going. And then as like the masses were coming towards me on that like flat straight stretch down there, I had to stop like twice, and like a dead stop from a couple of other little girls not paying attention, just like running directly at me. So trying to avoid them, I had to like dead stop twice, which made me lose all momentum a couple of times. Managed to hang on and regain my composure, and then put the hammer down pretty good for the last 3/10 of the mile. It did take a lot out of me, that mile race. Probably because I just don't race miles that much. So like a 5.5 is a pretty good red line for me. It's kind of hard if you're going to do a 5K after that. If you're going harder than a mile, you sort of have to be cautious as well, so you don't burn yourself up and you can perform during the 5K. But I was definitely hurting after the mile, and I say that with this being said, it was only a 5:30 mile. Definitely could have been quicker if it was like a flatter course or an easier course where there's no turns, and I didn't push so much earlier in the race. I would have had more when I threw the hammer down later in the race. I still should have been about a 5-minute mile or less, if that was my only race of the day and I was trying to like really go for a time. Definitely feel like it had been under 5, but with all things considered, I'll take the 5:30. Like I said, coming to a dead stop twice, and that bridge and stuff like that. But yeah, I did take first, and we'll say like 5.5 range. Not sure the official time is. Was definitely feeling it afterwards, huffing and puffing. My throat, back of my throat felt really dry. It still does now. I was coughing a little bit. Had to get some water to drink. I peed again real quick between races. Even wet my hat down pretty good. Cool myself down in between. But I knew my heart rate was like a 130-ish as I was walking around before the start of the second race. So I was just trying to keep myself calm and recover a little bit. So I only had like 10 minutes between the races. Well, like 15, but I wanted to be at the start line a couple minutes before the race started at 3:20. Yeah, recovered just enough to be able to handle and lower my heart rate down before the start of the 5K. I looked around. There's one kid that I was worried about, which is the one that won. Looked pretty serious, wearing a Pitt jersey. He looked familiar, but I don't know where from. He said he did the race every year previously, but he's a young kid, like 19 or something, so he had more spryness to him. See, he was my competition for the 5K, but I also wasn't really sure what my body was going to be able to do, because those kids pushed me a little bit too much that first half mile and the mile, more than I wanted to. So I was still feeling it during the 5K. Plus yesterday running a 5K at a fast pace probably still wasn't recovered because I am fat and out of shape. So we took off, got around the kids again during the 5K because they lined up again up front, but I sort of hung off to the left-hand side where there was an easier looking lane that I thought I could take quicker, and that's what I did. There was a couple kids that hung on for probably 4/10 of a mile. I wasn't too worried about them, at least not early in that point. I figured I was going to pass them. I was just trying to recover, get myself back into a groove that first 4/10 before I went around them. And I wasn't really pushing, it was just more of a slight faster pace than they were going. And I was trying to stick within striking distance of the kid who won, but not trying to pass him early on or push him or anything, just to see how it played out and see how he was going to react and if he could maintain his pace throughout the race. So it was just a waiting game at that point. But after I passed those kids, I hit that bridge again with the potholes and then through the Sportsman's, which is this time a lot longer, probably maybe a tenth or two, between a tenth and 2/10 into the Sportsman's Club the second time for the 5K. I know there was a guy smoking a cigar because I could smell it for both races. Definitely a lot of people fishing in the Sportsman's Club. Anyway, I probably was like 5-ish, 6 seconds behind at the turnaround, roughly, in the Sportsman's Club area. And again, I took that hard, which cost me a second or two. Again, I just couldn't make that turn. I don't know why I didn't try to make like a looping turn, and I just felt like I was doing like a quick, like 180 for some reason, but I still couldn't make that or a loop. Like my body just didn't want to make like a turn at all. It was just weird. Maybe I was just redlining too much and it just couldn't twist around that way correctly. I don't know. Whatever. But the third and fourth place wasn't too far behind. I really don't know. Maybe like less than 10 seconds. Probably at that point it was only like 5 to 7. So I did have to worry about them if I faded. So I did try to push it just a tad as we came out of the Sportsman's Club, and on like a flatter section for a tenth or two. Just tried to gap just a little bit. I think it worked because when I looked back at the turn, the third and fourth were a little bit farther back now. And then from there we did from what I recall, I'd have to look at the map again, like we'd go up one street for maybe 4/10, make a right for like 30 yards or something, and then make another right and go down the next street over for 4/10. We did this a couple times to finish out the race. And when you're a couple of them are like uphills, so like the first one that we ran up is an uphill, and then the next one's down, the next one's up, then downhill again, and then you actually finish on a slight incline into the finish line. I think it was only like 130, 140 feet. I'd have to look again when I upload. I know before I had like 170. I'm sure I only had 130-ish feet of incline. The inclines were a little bit rough. My legs were burning, and I knew we were going to have the downhill, so I wasn't really trying to save myself at that point. Just trying to maintain and gap just a little bit more as the race progressed. it seemed to work, because every time I would look back, they might have been slightly farther and farther back than they were previously. So that gave me some relief and allowed me to pull back just slightly enough where I wasn't redlining, and I could just slightly recover my body and my breathing enough where I wasn't pushing myself to the edge. And that's how I ended up finishing the race. First place one, he was like 7:05 or 17:05 range. I was like 18:10. About 30 seconds ish faster than I did 2 years ago, but I wasn't being pushed back then, so that was the reason for my time then. This time I just didn't have anything in me, and I couldn't have won the race because I would have had a PR. So I'm content with my second and my 18:10 range. If you would have told me on the way down I was going to do an 18:10, I would have taken it. In second place, I would have taken it. Obviously, I wanted to win both races, but at least wanted to take one today, so mission accomplished. I still feel good now. My legs still feel good. My throat's a little dry. Obviously, making this video is making it worse, but whatever. I had a good time. It was a good crowd, fun crowd. Got my 2 awards, first place and second place awards, and they gave me a big ass pumpkin pie, like a big giant eagle pie, like not a normal size pie. This is like the extra large version of pumpkin pie, so I'm gonna have to slice it up, freeze it. They had some pizza with small pepperonis that like folded up. Oh, it was good. And there was like an apple muffin and some apples and bananas and stuff, water and Gatorade. So nice little spread. Again, nice crowd. But it's a good race. At the turns, there's arrows at the turns. In like the major intersections, there is somebody standing and pointing in the right direction. So you don't have to worry about getting lost at all. You just have to pay attention a little bit. Because I guess a couple people did go the wrong way. I guess they went down a street farther than they needed to, somebody said, but I'm not really sure. But I didn't have any issues following the course. Again, with the people being on the turns, there's like, then they were using white arrows pointing in the right direction, and they weren't at the intersections. They sat them back, we'll say 10 feet from the intersections. So, because sometimes you do like crisscross, like on the lower parts, so you didn't get confused which way you were supposed to go. So that was smart on their behalf. And they had the GPR on the signs, you know, for Great Pumpkin Run. I think that's, yeah, GPR, yeah, Great Pumpkin Run. I had to think of what the initials were real quick. But yeah, benefits to the school, so I like to support that. Again, it was a nice crowd. I remember from last time, it was fun. A decent course. It feels a little bit more difficult than it really is, just because there's a couple streets that you run up and then back down like the next one. It does make it feel a little bit long as you're running, instead of like some quick turns that mentally make things go faster. But overall, it's an easy course, and I enjoyed it. Yeah, did what I set out to do, I guess, except for winning both, but I'm happy, and took 2 out of 3 races this weekend, so very happy with that.